Aloha, welcome back. So today's video, I wanted to share some of our trip with you. We went to Hawaii and it was so beautiful, so nice. The weather was amazing and yeah, we came back to a very cold snowstorm week across the US, and just thinking about like the time there, it was so nice. And I did some plant shopping. I actually filmed in a few like local places, and I stopped in a Home Depot. Just walking around and exploring and seeing these plants out in nature, climbing up trees and what they look like in their natural element. It was so beautiful to see in person, but we had a really good time. We also celebrated my birthday there. I turned 40, which is so crazy to say. My birthday was on the 19th. It was a lot of fun and it was so nice to just get away for a little bit. We were honestly only there for 5 nights and 2 of the days was spent traveling. So it seemed like we were gone for a while, but then it really wasn't. We had so much planned and had our days kind of figured out that it really did just go by so quickly, but it was nice. It was a nice, much needed getaway. So how I want to go about this video, if you want to hear more about the trip and some of the places that we went to and some of the views and sightseeing, stuff like that, I'll cover that in the first little part of this video. But if you're just interested in the plant shopping portion and the shops that I went to, the Home Depot and some of that stuff, I'll save that for the second part. So I'll just put a little timestamp here if you just want to click on that and go to that part. I did actually bring 2 plants back and I'll share those with you. And then I also wanted to do a little haul of a few items I picked up because they were local pieces, like done by local artists there. It was our first time staying or going and visiting to Hawaii. So we ended up staying on Oahu, where a lot of the attractions and Honolulu and stuff is just like the main area. My husband really wanted to do Pearl Harbor, and that was like our main kind of reason for choosing that one. But if we were to go back, I feel like I would stay on a different island just for some different scenery and stuff. And I guess we could always island hop, but I feel like we would need a little bit longer to stay there because yeah, like I said, we were there for 5 nights and it felt like a while, but really when it comes down to it, when you want to sightsee and stuff, it does fill up your days quickly and it just goes by so fast. So I definitely recommend like a minimum of a week staying there to really like take it all in. We ended up staying in a hotel in Waikiki and it was right on the water. So our hotel room, you could see the ocean and it was so beautiful. As soon as we got our room card and opened the door, like we went straight to the balcony. Actually, my husband couldn't really go onto the balcony because we were on the 23rd floor, which is super high up. I don't really have a fear of heights in that sense. Like I felt fine, but he couldn't really go out onto the balcony that much. He had to stay like really close to the door. There were boats docking and people going out into the water. There were surf lessons going on down there. So it was fun to just watch all of that and take it all in. We did get in the water, but it was a little bit chilly for this time of year, but it was nice nonetheless. Like the sun was out the whole time. It didn't rain at all, except one evening it did, or one afternoon it did drizzle a little bit, but the weather was just so nice. They ended up doing fireworks, which we didn't know about. We were in our hotel room and we heard like some banging going off and we could see them right from our hotel and it was so pretty. The time change really messed with us like the first couple of days, at least for me, because I was still a little bit sick. Like I was still coughing a little bit and I ended up getting food poisoning the first night. Which was like the perfect start to the trip. Like the second day we had hiking planned, which we did and everything. But honestly, like I felt terrible that whole day, but I pushed through. Our flight, we ended up landing Thursday. Like we got to Hawaii like in the afternoon and we had been traveling for almost a full 24 hours at that point. Like we had gotten up at, I think 3:30 in the morning to get to the airport. And it was just a really long travel day. Our connection flight was in Houston. So from Houston to the islands, it was a 9-hour flight. Our hotel was actually right in the middle of the heart of all the shopping and food places. So we were right in the middle of it, which we kind of wanted when we were looking for a place to stay. But we knew we wanted to explore the island. So we rented a car as well, and my husband did all the driving. That was one thing I didn't know about the driving. I guess for some reason I didn't put two and two together, but because that area is so populated, there was so much traffic, and he drove us around everywhere. I'm so glad of that. I didn't even want to take a chance on driving because I don't like driving where I don't know where I'm going. It was just so busy, so many people. So glad that he ended up driving all of that for us. But we drove around like the entire island and went to go see some other places. I don't know what was on the food that I ate. I think it was the grilled onions, but it made me sick all night. I was up like so sick to my stomach, and that combined with like lack of sleep and still getting over being sick, that Friday morning was so rough. But we already had things planned and scheduled, and some of the stuff we had to book in advance, so we got our tickets and stuff early, so we couldn't really change it, if that makes sense. But I pulled through. Like, I got through the day, and then by the weekend, by like Saturday, Sunday, I felt better. But yeah, the time change is like 6 hours, I think, for part of the year, and then 5 hours because they don't do daylight savings over there. It was so late by the time we actually like went to bed. It was like 2, 3 in the morning our time here on the East Coast. So that was hard adjusting to the time for sure. We were so tired by like 7, 8 p.m. there. We were like, I'm so tired. We just want to go to bed. But then we also didn't want to like just sleep the whole time. Like, we wanted to do and explore and everything, so we had to like push through some evenings. But other than the first night, like everything else was good after that. It's just, but yeah, that was a rough night. We went and grabbed a drink at like a rooftop bar, and we were talking with the server, the bartender, about like kind of things to do. And there was also a nice lady who was just there by herself drinking a glass of wine, and we were chatting with her for a bit, and she told us some things to check out. We didn't even know really what all to do. Like, I was doing some research before our trip, but as far as things to see and do, we didn't really know like exactly what to do and everything. But we were talking with them, and the guy was like, you need to go drive to the North Shore area and check out the big waves. It's where the professional surfers do contests, and it's just such like a relaxing vibe compared to like the main part of the island. So we ended up doing that the next morning. Originally I had like planned to hike that morning, but we drove over there and then ended up hiking that afternoon. But it ended up working out because it gave me a little bit more time to feel better. So we drove to North Shore that morning, and it was a little bit like cloudy and a little bit cool. It was so amazing seeing those big waves in person. We were there probably for a few hours and just taking it all in. We actually, I don't know what we were thinking, but we were going to the beach, but we didn't bring any of our beach stuff. And we both had our tennis shoes on because we had planned on going hiking. And so we're like, oh, it's fine. We'll just walk on the sand. We'll just make sure not to get our feet wet, you know? And we had like both turned our heads for a second looking at something behind us. And I kid you not, the water, I guess a bigger wave came, and literally within that like few seconds, it it drenched our like bottom half of our legs. But we just had to laugh because of course the moment we turn our heads from the water, that happens. I just feel like it's just funny thinking about it now. But it was fine with like the sun out and everything, and by the time we walked around, it pretty much dried by the time we went to go do our hike, because we didn't want to drive back to the hotel to change and then go, because we just wanted to drive straight there. But the waves are really cool. We actually ended up going to North Shore again because we wanted to just get out of the main hustle area, and so we ended up going to dinner one night there, and then drove back. It honestly, to reach one side of the island, I don't even think it was a full hour. With traffic, that's the thing. It's like mileage wise, it wasn't a ton, maybe like 30 some miles. But with traffic, it usually took about an hour or so because depending on what time you leave, just like anywhere, there's more traffic at certain times of the day. But yeah, the traffic in the main area, there's like H2, H3 were the main highways, I think, and H1. But it's crazy, I didn't even think about traffic at all while before the trip until we actually got there and we're in the middle of it. It's like, yeah, we have to deal with this traffic. Oh, before I move on to the hike and where we went, so the roosters and the chickens and the wildlife. So something that I didn't know that is pretty cool, I guess, is that there's no land predators in Hawaii. So there's no snakes, no alligators, no bears, no actual predator, which is so crazy because you think about those dense areas on the island and there's no snakes. Like, I can't wrap my mind around that. And it's just, you didn't have that fear at all. Like here, I'm always paranoid about snakes because we have poisonous snakes, venomous snakes, we have alligators here in Savannah. And so going outside, you have to be mindful of that. But you don't have that worry there. You just have a ton of roosters running around. We were at the beach, you know, and you just have like these droves of roosters everywhere. There was like a group of like 10 and just like roaming around. It's so cool. Every time I saw roosters, I just got so excited because I'm like, this is like the Canadian geese here because we have swarms of Canadian geese that come and flock in the spring and they hang out all summer here. So the geese is like the roosters over there, but they were everywhere. They were just so cool. There was a mama and she brought her babies over to see me. It was so cute. I was actually eating an acai bowl, which the food there was absolutely amazing, but we were sitting at like a little picnic table and she brought her babies over like right by my foot. It's funny because I think she wanted the food that I was eating or the granola or something on it. And they would even go into the stores. It's so funny seeing them like try and go into the restaurants and everything. But she like got right next to my foot and all of her little babies surrounded her and they actually all like got under her and she sat on them. And then she was just like looking up at me. It was the cutest thing ever. They were absolutely adorable, all the little babies. And we saw another like mama and group of babies so many times during our trip. It was just so fun watching them. But that was one of my favorite parts, is just seeing them roam freely like that. It was just so nice. We ended up only doing one hike. I honestly would have loved to do more hiking stuff, but we did some other things instead. But the hike that we decided to do was going up to Diamond Head, and that's the mountain that you see like in the photos right next to the city. And that is by far, I think, one of the favorite things that I did because the views, you guys, the views were breathtaking. The hike itself wasn't bad. And again, this was like right after my food poisoning thing because I wasn't feeling that well, but I pulled through. I was just, yeah, I had to stop so many times because I just like, I need to take a moment. There was some rough like areas, but honestly it wasn't bad. And I feel like if I can do it under the weather and not like having worked out and stuff, but I feel like anyone can do it. I feel like the only thing you really had to watch out for was like people coming down the same time you were trying to go up because some of the paths were more narrow. But that was really it. And there was some lookout points, you know, along the path that you could stop and take photos. And then once you got to the top, there was several different lookout points, and the very top, on one side, you saw the view of the city, and I just want to like get that framed because it was so pretty just seeing it in person. I could have stayed up there all day, honestly. My husband did not want to go up to the top because of the heights thing. So I went up there and he like stayed down lower, and I like went back down to find him, like, you need to come up here and look at the view. Like, it's fine. It's not that bad. I talked him into it, and so he went up to the top with me, but the views were just amazing. It was just very windy up there. So I felt like the footage in some places were hard to get because of the wind, but it was so nice up there. It was, yeah, it was such a good hike. I definitely recommend that. And the views just, yeah, absolutely amazing. One of the other things that we decided to do that we didn't really know about was the Jurassic tours. There was actually a couple different tours that you could do. You could do like a movie site tour. There was a tour of just Jurassic, and there was like zipline, ATV, stuff like that, but it's called, I think it's Kualoa Ranch. It was cool seeing some of the areas. So I ended up getting a lot of footage, but I don't really know how much of it I could show, but I'll put like some of it while I'm talking. But we ended up having like a bus tour guide. So it was like an hour and a half long, and we got out at certain points. And we also toured one of the bunkers from the war, which was pretty cool. We went inside of that and explored. It was kind of cool to see some of that. But again, the views and stuff were just amazing of the mountain, and it was fun to kind of just listen to him talk because he was so funny. But yeah, I have so much footage of that, but it was really fun to do. We ended up doing the movie site tour because it was an hour less. I think the Jurassic one alone was 2.5 hours, and this was an hour and a half because we had tagged this on to some other stuff that we were doing that day. But it was really fun to do, and it was nice just to kind of listen to some of the culture and stuff there, listen to him talk, and getting to see like a different side of the island and exploring some of that. So I definitely recommend that. It was a lot of fun. And then my husband actually did a Pearl Harbor by himself. I was going to join him and do that with him, but then I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm going to take away from that experience because it's something like that was the main thing he wanted to do. I don't have any footage of that because that's all on his phone. I ended up just taking my time that morning and relaxing, and I went and did some like local shopping there, and I had like the best acai bowl and coffee. Like the food there is so amazing, you guys. The avocado toast. I had avocado toast 4 mornings because there was like a little bakery right from our hotel, and I had the avocado toast one morning and I just cannot get enough of it. I don't know what it is with the avocados there, but they don't taste anything like the avocados here. Nothing. Like I was so addicted that as soon as I came home, I had to go to the grocery store and get some avocados and toast and make avocado toast. But it doesn't taste the same. I like want to import avocados from Hawaii because it's so good. The coffee is absolutely amazing. I got a little like instant, I don't know if it's really instant or ground coffee from one of the places there, and so I've made that a few times already, and it tastes so good. We went to a lot of fun restaurants. I feel like the favorite one was called Hula Grill. It was an oceanfront, and we had the best server. She just had us laughing the whole night, and it was a fun evening, beautiful views, and yeah, the food was really, really good. I would say the only bad food that I had was the first night. On my sandwich with the grilled onions. And then we also ended up doing this is kind of like a last minute thing. We were going to go to a different restaurant like downtown again, but for like a change of pace and scenery, we didn't really get out on the water that much because we were busy sightseeing. And then I also went to a botanical garden and plant shops too. But for my birthday evening, we decided, you know what, let's do a dinner cruise, and that way dinner's taken care of and we can get out on the water, look at the sunset, and it'll just be kind of peaceful. So we decided to do that. The boat was called Star of Honolulu, and it was like a 2-hour dinner cruise. So we went out onto the water, and it started getting dark, and we watched the sunset. That was beautiful, and the food wasn't good. We had like, I think 3 different food courses and a little dessert, and a couple drinks were allotted with our ticket, but even the drinks, like they weren't good. But that's okay. The time was fun, like being on there, and we got to see like a little luau dance on the boat as well. Yeah, I would say I would not recommend that if you are wanting like a good food experience. The vibes were good, but just not the food. So Monday was my actual birthday, and I didn't realize it was MLK Day that day as well. And they had this like huge parade downtown because we were trying to get some breakfast like somewhere new, because at that point I had avocado toast so much I wanted something different. And we like left our hotel to go walk and find like a food place, and it was so crowded and there was a parade going on, and we were like, what is going on? What is this about? And then finally realized it was an MLK parade. So that was pretty much it as far as like the sightseeing. We did kind of relax by the pool and down to like the little beach area for parts of some days. And then we ended up going to a botanical garden. My husband kind of just, he was the driver pretty much. He kind of let me do my own thing. And then I visited 3 plant shops and a Home Depot. So I think that's pretty much it on the sightseeing stuff. So now we'll get into the plant shopping, which was a lot of fun to go and see. I was so excited to just browse some of the shops there and just seeing what the selection was like. I'll start with the botanical garden first. The one that I went to, I wanted to go to a couple, but just kind of ran out of time. And I also didn't realize that I was getting like torn up by mosquitoes. So I was like halfway looking through, like just walking around, and I had shorts and a t-shirt on because it was nice. And I just like, I felt something like landing on me, but I didn't like put 2 and 2 together. And then I realized there were freaking mosquitoes everywhere because I was like really into looking at the plants, and I was like getting photos. I had my camera, I had like my phone in one hand and trying to get all this footage, and then I was getting like eaten up by mosquitoes. I didn't even think about that. Like I had no bug spray or anything. So I didn't get to stay like in part of it very long, which was kind of sad about that. And then I was going to go to a different one, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just do plant shops, and that's fine because I didn't really feel like getting attacked by mosquitoes. I guess I could have bought bug spray, but then I kind of felt bad too because he was driving me around and just sitting in the car waiting for me. So I didn't want to like keep him either, but he insisted on driving because I'm like, you know, let me just Uber to the plant shops and you can do whatever you wanted to do since you did your Pearl Harbor thing. But he insisted. The botanical garden I ended up going to was really nice. It was Hoʻomaluhia, and it had like a little visitor center where you could look at photos, and they had some different types of alocasia and plants around like the main like visitor part. And then there was just this main road that you could drive down, and there were some parking areas, and there was a lake. But I didn't really know where to go, so I just started walking. And on my way to the visitor center, because we had to park a little ways away because it was kind of getting filled up, the parking lots that were there. So we drove down a little bit, and then I got out of the car and was walking up to the center, and then on the left I see philodendron. I believe it's philodendron micans. You'll have to let me know what you think. But just covered, the trees were covered in this philodendron, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. I could have stayed there, like I said, all day, but I didn't want to like be gone too long. But it was amazing seeing that plant just doing its thing in nature, just climbing, just covering the tree trunk and everything. It was absolutely incredible. Just seeing photos and videos does not do it justice. You have to be there in person really to see it, but it was amazing. And yeah, I will never forget that moment. But I was trying to get like clips and images of that, and then I'm like, okay, so I walk to the visitor center, look around there, and then I see a trail to like go into the garden, I guess the woods, the dense area, wherever you want to call it, and just seeing these plants in their natural elements. So I'll play some of the clips that I got and talk a little bit of what I think some of the plants might be, but I'll just share some of that footage. I spotted what I thought was a philodendron. I didn't know what kind of philodendron. It doesn't really look like a Plowmanii, or it was one of, I felt like it was a type like that, but it was big and bushy. It was hard to really see from my angle because I was zoomed in on my camera. It was back further in the distance, but it was just so cool to see that. They had palm trees everywhere, just everywhere you looked, just so many different varieties. They had plants with beautiful blooms and so many banana trees as well. It was just so cool seeing all of that. I saw some cool bromeliads, and I love the foliage on these. I think these were called Imperial is what this sign said, bromeliad, but they were so cool. I love the variegation on those. And again, more banana trees, philodendron, you name it. I even spotted a little stingray alocasia just chilling It was so cool. But everywhere you looked, you saw some type of philodendron, I feel like, just out there in nature, doing its thing, climbing up trees. There's just so many different types and varieties. They added cacao trees and local stuff to the area growing, and a lot of like different types of alocasia I noticed as well. They had some spathophyllum, peace lilies. And some cool anthurium. I didn't know for sure if it was an anthurium, but I saw another bushel of them with like the pink flowers, like the inflorescence. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely an anthurium. The type, I have no idea though. But yeah, lots more palm trees and just so much lush, dense forest. This beautiful bloom here, I ended up seeing this in a plant shop as well. I don't know what that's from or what kind of plant that is, but it was so pretty. I love just walking through and seeing all the plants. I really didn't notice the mosquitoes happening until I was like more in the jungle area in the middle when I was like going up the trails. But I was so like, my mind was just so focused on the plants and looking at the plants. I spotted another philodendron, which I thought was pretty cool, climbing up a tree. Again, I didn't know the exact type or variety, but I just thought that was so cool seeing that. And another thing that I thought was really cool was ants. So they had this, there was this big philodendron with like really long petioles and huge leaves. And I wanted to like put my hand up to the leaf to do like a comparison of the leaf size because it was just massive. And I'm like, there's ants crawling all over the leaves and they're drinking the nectaries, the EFNs, like how the philodendron do in my plant room when I had ants all over them. But it's cool seeing like naturing, nature doing its thing. It was just cool to see that. Again, just so many big philodendron, just lush and green everywhere. And everywhere you look, I just felt like there was some type of cool plant. This little trailing thing, I had no idea what it was. I think it's probably some kind of philodendron again. There were so many different trails I wanted to go down, but I kept getting bitten, so I'm like, no. I've gotten like enough. Let me go ahead and make my way back. But I think my favorite part was definitely seeing the philodendron micans at the initial part, because that just was breathtaking seeing that. I really do wish I went to another one, but that's okay. But this one was a lot of fun and I'm glad I got to see and get some footage of a part of that. Before I take you to some of the plant shops, also all along just the area, so many monsteras just growing out in nature, like in the middle of the city. You'd see Monstera deliciosa everywhere. It was so cool. That, and just even at the restaurants, there would be just plant displays, just random plants. It was so cool. There was one that had like a ficus, a philodendron, hastatum, pothos, just cool displays. And the other plant that I saw everywhere was a pothos. I don't know if it's a Hawaiian pothos or a golden, but climbing up every tree. When we drove our vehicle from one side of the island to others, all along, like everywhere we were driving, if you would look, there was just like pothos climbing up trees, pothos climbing up trees. We were at a stoplight and I looked to my right. I'm like, oh, is that a monstera? I was like, it was kind of far away, so I was trying to zoom in. And I'm like, no, wait, no, that's a pothos. It was so incredibly fenestrated. It looked like a monstera, but it's so cool that a pothos you know, seeing that in nature like that, it was so cool because you saw them everywhere. So I guess you get used to it if you live there. But, you know, visiting and seeing it like that, it's just so cool because you don't see that here. You just see normal trees here. You don't see pothos like climbing up trees. I think the other cool thing that I didn't really get too many clips of was just random trees. The trees are so different. They're like more canopy like and thin, like you could actually see the branches. It's not so much like dense pine trees and stuff like that. They're just a different kind of tree. But looking at all the foliage like that was really intriguing to me. I loved, because my husband did all the driving, I got to see, you know, looking out the window, I just got to take in all of the scenery and just seeing all the foliage and trees. They were just so unique. So I loved seeing that. One of the first plant shops that I stopped in was, I don't know if it's really a plant shop, more or less. It's like a garden center. So I kind of would say it's like an Ace Hardware or maybe even a big box store, something like that. But it was Koolau farmers, and there was, I know of at least 2 on the island because we did pass another one that I didn't stop in. There might have been a 3rd one, but I know there's at least 2. But the one I stopped in was closer to the Waikiki area in that vicinity. And I was so anxious, you guys. I can't tell you how shaky I felt. One, just like trying to film, and I felt like so out of my element in the sense that, I don't know, I felt like calm being around the plants, but I felt awkward in a way because I get very anxious when I'm out like socially, especially when I'm trying to like get some footage. I just felt so awkward. So I will say I didn't really get a lot of the pricing. I just honestly was there just looking, and I wanted to get some footage, and I was trying not to be awkward, but yeah, I don't really have a lot of prices on things. I did get some prices, but it was cool seeing just the plants that they had there. That's what I was focused on, just seeing the type of plants that were there, not necessarily how much they cost. So I guess it's just like anywhere else, like some prices are going to fluctuate no matter where you are, but I would say I was a little surprised that the Taikons were still pretty expensive. But I was talking to one of the workers in one of the other plant shops, and she says that the plants they tend to get are normally bigger because of like importing them from the mainland, I guess. They don't tend to get a lot of like small plants, but it was interesting just seeing like the cool varieties and everything. So in this shop, like I said, I was just trying to get some footage and not being awkward. They had such a big selection of plants, I thought, so many. They had just so many common types of plants, you know, your normal philodendron, calathea, alocasia. They had a little bit of Hoya here, and they had some big, huge plants. And yeah, I'll share, and orchids were a big thing too, but over here, like at the entrance, they had a little bit of Hoya I noticed, and this little peperomia, but not like a ton of Hoya, I would say. They had some common plants like Dieffenbachia and Aglaonema, Spathophyllum. They had, oh, this was a really pretty Dieffenbachia. I have no idea the type. I just thought that was beautiful. I was tempted by so many plants as well, especially in one of my favorite plant shop, which I go to next, but I wanted so many plants. I wanted at least like 3 or 4 that I wanted to bring back, but I had to be mindful that I was traveling on an airplane, and I already knew like space was an issue, and I already was carrying like a bigger carry-on, so I had to keep that in mind. But honestly, if I could go back, I would have taken some more home with me. I really would have. But yeah, here's some of the calatheas. They had a silverband maranta, calathea. They had a little Geopertia macoiana, syngonium, zizis, you know, some of the common stuff. They had different sizes as well. They had like tiny 2-inch plant pots and some bigger ones. I think the plant that most amazed me was a variegated ficus at this plant shop. They had a huge one here. I didn't get the price of it though. I had to like get my phone out and be like, I gotta take a picture of this because this is so cool. But I've never seen a variegated fiddle leaf fig be this massive. It was insane. And not only was it massive, but it was like in pristine condition, like not crispy at all, and so beautiful. I just was in love. They actually had more up front that I'll show you that I didn't see initially. They had ferns and hanging baskets, and I actually spotted a Monstera albo. I didn't catch the price. They had another one, but this one here, I was trying to find a price, but I didn't see it. But the other one did have a price. I think it was over 200. But I guess for how many nodes you get, I feel like it is pretty reasonable. But yeah, it was just cool to see just them out in a plant shop. They had some little Jose Buonos here. I think those said at $24.99. They had some philodendron Birkin, philodendron White Knights. That leaf was humongous. And little painted ladies. They had Ring of Fires, you know, some of the common plants, of course, and even pink princesses. They had a little string of turtles. They had Spanish moss, baby Monstera deliciosas. Those were so cute. I think those were 19, maybe, along those lines. And then they had a bunch of common pothos, beautiful mandula. They had these little enjoys. They had a lot of these like 2-inch pots, and those were only, I think, $3 or $4. They weren't that much. Even this size of mandula I thought was reasonable for 15. And this plant here, I don't know what this is called. They actually had a few of them inside, which were really big, but you guys, it was so pretty with the variegation. And here's the other Monstera that was like 200 something that I was showing you. I mean, it is a decent size, so I feel like that's reasonable. But that bigger plant with the Aria variegation, if you know what it is, let me know. But I was so tempted to get one, but it was just too massive. I couldn't do it, but it was so pretty. And I saw these here. This was a blue oil fern, and it only had like 2 leaves for $12. I had seen this plant recently, but I was like tempted. I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of maybe want this. It's small enough that I feel like it would easily come back on the plane with me. So I was tempted by this one, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wait, because what if I find a bigger one somewhere? Because I'm like, I don't really want to pay that much for 2 little leaves. Here's another one of those bigger plants with that variegation. It was just beautiful. And lots of alocasia, like I said, so many different varieties. They had regal shields here, and this one beside it, I forget, I think this is like impernalis maybe, something like that, but it's like a different kind. I don't normally see that one, but they looked so happy and healthy. And they had some dragon scale as well. Again, it looked so pretty and healthy. They had a lot of ficus plants. They had Ficus shriveriana, Ficus teneki, they had ruby, all kinds of different varieties. And they had like, you know, a garden section with normal like outdoor plants native to that area. And these beautiful hibiscus flowers were so pretty. And they also had a pretty cool air plant display here. They probably had like 100 to 200 different kinds of air plants. I stood here for like 30 minutes trying to, I'm like, you know what? An air plant would be really good to bring back because it doesn't have any soil. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get an air plant here because I feel like I have to get something. So I was looking at all of them. I noticed they were all super glued to the piece of wood bark that they were on. So I thought that was interesting. I think that's probably just how they displayed them, because there was a little hook on the back to hook them up like that. So I was trying to figure out which one I wanted because they all looked so cute. And then I found this fuzzy guy that I was really attracted to. So I was thinking about getting this one because I liked him. I just like the fuzzy plant. He was only 20. So I was like, I'm gonna think about it and look around and I'll come back. And here on the outside too, so there was some workers here. So I'm like, they were here behind the desk, so I couldn't go here at first. But then they went inside. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me look back here. And they had more of the variegated fiddles, and they had huge ticons. Honestly, the huge ticons, I feel like weren't that expensive here. I wish I like found the exact price, but the ticons, the smaller ones that I found in like Home Depot coming up, those were like so expensive. So I'm like, you're better off getting like a giant one because it was so much more affordable than the smaller ones. And inside was so cute. They had, again, a lot of alocasia here. They had regular Bicolitiana. They even had a variegated, a Friedac. And here's some of the smaller ticons in here as well. These ones in here were 99, which wasn't bad. The smaller ticons in here, I forgot, weren't that bad, but the ticons in the Home Depot that I'm going to show you were like twice as expensive. But they did have a few smaller ones, which were pretty reasonable. I really liked the variegation on, was it this one? I think it was this one that had really pretty variegation. I think there was another one too. Again, another one of these alocasias. Yeah, it says Impernalis alocasia. I liked the look of that one. I thought that one was really pretty. Here's another like Lauterbachia and another Tycon here. Here's the variegated Friedeck. Had some pretty large leaves on that. It was so pretty. I loved seeing the alocasia. I didn't see any pests at all either, like spider mites and stuff. And this guy was pretty cool. I had a different shape. They had a display in the middle with some more calathea type plants and ferns and more alocasia and stuff. And they had a big I forget the name of this one. More air plant displays, more alocasia. Here was a black velvet. Another Tycon. Okay, this one had the better variegation. This one I thought was really pretty. I didn't need another Tycon, but I was thinking in my head, I'm like, you know what? It is tempting when you see them. And the Billietiers, oh my gosh, I forgot. They had so many huge Billietiers. Like, look at those orange petioles. And this thing was only $49, you guys. Like $50 for a huge Billietier. I was blown away by how like inexpensive that was for such a giant specimen. And they had, I think that was a Spathophyllum. This one was really cute. I was tempted by this one because I liked the stripe in the middle. I thought that was really cute. And so many beautiful orchids. I honestly regret not getting one of these orchids. I feel like the orchids were pretty reasonably priced. They had a lot of phals and then a lot of different varieties. The flowers were so cute. That one was beautiful, and yeah, a lot of Phalaenopsis here. But the one that I really wanted, I'll show you here. I think it was only $30 and I was going to get it, but then I talked myself out of it, but I really wished I would have gotten it. It's this one here. Like, look at those blooms. It was speaking to me, but I held off. But I wish I would have gotten it though. But yeah, you could see some of the inside. It kind of reminded me of an Ace Hardware. And they had like one little section of succulents and cacti, not a lot over here. Little displays like that and a few individual cacti. And this section here where you walk in, again, massive Tycon. Like, it was humongous. Like, the leaf size was insane. And honestly, I think it was like maybe 150, if that. It wasn't that bad. They had some regular purple shamrock, oxalis plants. They had some more of these Billietiers back here. Really big specimens. And they had some other various Frydecks and some other smaller plants. And then they had a lot more of the variegated Ficus lyrica. It was so cool just seeing those. Here behind me, there was a couple more. There we go. So yeah, those are so cool. I love seeing those. Plantoem was the next plant shop I stopped in, and I absolutely loved it. It was so cute. It's like a little boutique, and they had this sit down area inside with teas, like herbal teas, and I ended up getting a matcha and just like shopping around. It was so pretty inside. We were trying to find, we had a little trouble finding it because I knew I wanted to come here, and our GPS, like, we drove by it a couple of times, and the way the roads are, like, some roads were only like one direction, and so we had to like go around a couple of times, but it ended up being on the back of the street, so we had to park, and I eventually found it. But the inside was so pretty. They had so many amazing plants, and this is where my head started just like spinning. I wanted so many plants. They had massive, massive alocasia. I thought that was just so cool. Right up my alley because I love alocasia. I believe it was alocasia Zebrina. If not Zebrina, then a different type by the door, but it was huge, you guys. So impressive. So many big plants. This is the one that I was talking to inside a little bit. I told her I was visiting, and so I had planned on, like, I wanted to take a couple plants back with me, and I was kind of asking her about that process a little bit. And I mentioned to her there was a couple plants I was looking at, but I'm afraid they're too big and I'm worried about that. But she's like, people take, like, even, she pointed to a bromeliad, like, people take these massive plants back with them. They just take off the soil and they kind of like bend the leaves up, and they manage to do it. I was looking at the Aglaonema. There was a beautiful Aglaonema. It was so pretty. Because you guys know on my wish list, I've been wanting an Aglaonema, but I fell in love with it. And I'm like, it wasn't an 8-inch planter. Like, it was big, you guys. It may not look that way from the photos, but in person it was huge. And I just like talked myself out of it. Because I'm like, it's too big. I just know if I take this in my carry-on, it's gonna get, yeah. Because it was a long flight, you know, so I'm like, I can't do it, but I really wanted it. I wanted that, and then I was looking at the Zabrinas because there were a couple of them, like smaller ones, but they were still like really long, the stems. But I'm kind of regretting not getting some. I really, really am. But it was so cool just to look around and see all the pretty plants and everything. And another thing I didn't see right away is they had a massive taikon. It was like a huge top cutting potted, and it was just like displaying over the entire wall. And it was so pretty. So beautiful. I can't wait for my taikon to get this big, honestly. I'm excited for it, but it was so beautiful. And yeah, just they had some air plants in the middle, just the way that it was like flowing down. I took a photo, I'll put it here, but it was just so cool, so pretty. I just love the inside of this. I actually really like the wall color too. I love the whole vibe. So it makes me think like maybe I should paint my plant room and make it more jungly. It's like a blue-green color. It was very pretty. But I love the way that wall color pops with the plants. So I might be tempted to paint some walls in my plant room. Or maybe one wall that color. I loved all the pop of colors too. All the plant pots and stuff were so pretty. They had a lot of common plants, but then a lot of the plants were really big. She said too, like they don't get a lot of the smaller plants in when coming from the mainland. They usually get bigger specimens. They had another blue oil fern, which I was looking at, and Syndapsis, Calathea, lots of alocasia, like I said, monsteras, philodendrons, you name it. They had this pretty variegated Schefflera, huge alocasia dragon scales. It was so cool seeing all this stuff. They had alocasia, like a little nobilis, lots of dragon scales, lots of Aglaonema and Calathea, Dieffenbachia. They also had a section of like souvenir type things. So I was looking at this for a little bit. I actually got a couple items in here. But I was looking at all of that stuff for a bit. But back behind there was the sitting area. They were actually quite busy, so I was really trying not to get people in my footage. That's why I did so many cuts, because if somebody walked by or somebody was in my frame, I was trying not to get them. I actually don't know what this philodendron is here. It was really skinny, but it was so cool. I just thought that skinny leaf with like the horns. So if you guys know what philodendron that is, let me know, because I just thought that was so cool looking. They also had some pink princess in here, and some of them were actually pretty variegated. They had some on the table here, and they looked so pink and pretty. I just love pink princess, so I thought those were cool. I just loved looking at everything. It was so colorful and pretty. Yeah, it was one of my favorite plant shops. I really loved it. The other local place I went to before the Home Depot was called Paiko, I believe. I don't know how to pronounce that one. I didn't actually really get any footage in this one because there was only one worker, or I don't know if she's the shop owner, but I was talking to her a little bit too, and I mentioned I was from Savannah, and I was just like, you know, browsing around just here for the first time. And so I was chatting with her, and she was like, oh, I'm thinking about visiting the East Coast, and we were thinking about the Savannah area. So that was pretty cool. But she was really nice. There wasn't like a ton of plants inside, but is more of like a boutique kind of shop in fresh flowers. She was working on the back counter and she said a staghorn fern, like a part of it had fallen from a tree. And so she was like taking it apart back there. So she was working on that and chatting a little bit with me. But there was some, like, just some common plants in there and some fresh flowers and stuff. But they had a little bit of plants outside. They had some ficus and a few like smaller plants, some calathea and some little philodendron and peperomias, a few succulents and stuff like that, but not a ton. They had a few orchids and then some different kind of cacti and stuff, but yeah, I didn't really get a lot of footage in there. And then I did stop in one Home Depot. Like I said, there was actually a Lowe's close by, and then there was, I believe, another Home Depot that we had ended up passing, but with traffic and everything, I ended up just going to the one Home Depot. But you guys, this Home Depot was insane. The amount of plants in there compared to the stores here is just crazy. It was also extremely busy in here as well, so I was trying to avoid all the people. But they had so many different varieties of plants. It was like its own little plant shop in a way. Lots of philodendron. They had some Jose Bueno here. They had some little Florida Ghost, philodendron gloriosum, all kinds of different philodendron. And they had some alocasia, pink princess, xanthosomas, some Birkins, Adansonii, and aglaonemas. I was looking at a couple different aglaonemas in here, and I was going to get one. This one here that I was looking at, because I had 2 in 1. I was thinking about it because I really wanted a pink aglaonema, but it had a lot of green. So in my head, I was like, I can easily get aglaonemas in the States, so, or back on the mainland. So I'm like, I don't technically need to bring this back with me. But just kind of browsing around. Again, there was a lot of people, a lot of people around me. And this beautiful begonia here, I think this one is called a cracklin rose, I believe. I pick it up here and show the tag in a second. And they had this angel wing type begonia as well. And then there was a Rex begonia back there, or I guess maybe they're both Rex begonias. But the angel wing here, this one was really pretty. I liked the contrast, like the red backs, and it was only $7 too, which I thought was crazy. Like $7 for this beautiful begonia. Again, in my head, I was thinking like, do I need this? Do I want this? They actually had quite a few different types of Hoya here as well. Some more aglaonema, common plants and stuff, ZZs, and different types of alocasia. Again, like dragon scale, some of the taller ones. They had some bambinos. I didn't get too much of the pricing, but honestly, I feel like the prices were pretty reasonable. I mean, I feel like there was like an inside section that I'll show you, but for a lot of the hanging plants, they weren't like $13, which I thought was pretty good. They also had a huge section of air plants as well as orchids. There were a couple orchids I was looking at because I didn't get any in the other plant shop, but I thought the blooms were so cool on some of them, and I liked the foliage on some as well. I was really tempted. I like had one in my hand and I was walking around with it, but it was so cool just seeing all these orchids here. It makes me excited. Like now I want to go film another shopping video because I haven't been to our stores in a little bit now. I'm like, I kind of want to go see what's out. Oh, and around back, they actually had some smaller orchids without the bloom. So I was thinking like, oh, this would be an easy one to take as well. They had lots of anthuriums, like pretty red anthurium flowers. And here's some random syngonium, some more types of begonia, peperomias. They had a zebra plant, Dieffenbachia. There was a Hoya here. I think this was Hoya pubicalis. It was very splashy. I think this one was only $8 as well, which was pretty good. It reminds me of the Leaf Joy from Home Depot, although I didn't see technically like any Costa and Leaf Joy. I don't actually know the brand of these, like what it was. Fiddles, some bigger plants here. Some bigger alocasia. Some Monstera deliciosa as well. They have these pretty regal shields, orbifolia mixed in there. The regal shields were so cute. Lots of Dieffenbachia and aglaonema. I was looking at that one too because I'm like, oh, this one has more pink. Lots of calathea here as well. I feel like everything just thrives in the environment here because it's so warm and humid. Oh, they had an alocasia mellow for $15.98. I thought that was pretty cool seeing the mellow because I've been thinking about getting a variegated mellow. Yeah, just so much to look at. There was just so many aisles of plants here. Here were more Hoya plants. The only thing that I didn't see a ton of succulents, like cacti, because my Home Depot, one of the Home Depots here has like tons of succulents. They had a lot of these white knight philodendron on these trellises, which I feel like the price wasn't bad on those either. And here were the Taikons. They're $179. So in the other shop, they were $99. So these were $180. And honestly, the variegation wasn't like crazy on these. So I thought those were a little overpriced because again, like Taikons here are so cheap now. They had some Thanksgiving cactus. Again, more phals, a lot more orchids. And then more Monstera adansonii. And then here's the other side of the Thai cons. It's funny because like split leaf philodendron, Thai constellation. They have these pretty mixed baskets as well with the anthurium and stuff. I really like those planters. Those were really pretty. Coming along the inside, this was the only section of plants I saw on the indoor section. So these are all hanging baskets of pothos, just like common, some philodendron as well, and some Scindapsus, but they had some Cebu blue here. And again, I think these are only $12.98, so $13. And then they had some more orchids in here. I was really wanting this pink one, this one here. I thought that was really cute. I really like the leaves on that. I thought the leaves were really pretty, and it was only $20. I didn't spend a lot of time in Home Depot because again, like we had gone to a couple plant shops and I felt bad for him waiting on me. But again, it was so crowded and I was just kind of anxious. So I just wanted to go in and kind of browse and just see what they had. If I had like another day to do more plant stuff, I feel like I would have gone to more big box stores, and I would definitely do more botanical garden for sure. I did do a lot of plant stuff, but I kind of wished I went to a little bit more. Okay, I'll do the haul portion next, and I'll go out there and do the haul because the plants are out there and the like little souvenirs are out there. And yeah, we just had such a fun time. It's funny because our flight back was in the evening because we did a red eye. So our flight was like 6 something, and we left Hawaii. It was like the sunset on the plane. It was so pretty looking out the window. And so I like got a photo of that, and then it was like it was one of the like, I wouldn't say worst flights I've been on, but it was long, and then it was a noisy flight. I couldn't really sleep. I was kind of uncomfortable, and it did fly by, but it was a rough flight. And then we landed. Our connecting flight was in Chicago. It got delayed, so we ended up having a 5-hour layover. We actually got in just in time before the snowstorm really hit, but we landed. It was like 19 and snowing, but like the difference in leaving sunny 80-degree beautiful weather and landing in 19 degrees and snowing, it was kind of like a weather shock in a way. It was so like funny how that was. But yeah, not ready to be back to the freezing cold because it's been really cold this week, and with that snowstorm and everything, I'm just like, oh, I'm ready for spring. But yeah, let me go ahead and go out there with you, and I'll show you the plants I ended up getting and a few of the artwork pieces. So because I was anxious about bringing plants back, I ended up only getting 2. But like I said, I kind of wished I had got more. The first one was this fuzzy guy, this air plant here, and he's so cute. So he came on the wood piece, but it was super glued, so I freed him from that. And I have him in the window with my other 2 air plants over here. But I love the color on this one. I loved how like fuzzy he was. He does have some crispy tips that were kind of like that. But he traveled well. I did give him a little like soak already and air dried him. But this one, Tectorum fuzzball is the name. That's what they have it as. And it was, I think, yeah, only $20. So he was really cute. I felt like I had to get him. So yeah, he was really cute. I'm glad I got him because I do like air plants. I do have a couple and they're doing well. So Yeah, that was an easy one to bring back. And the other one that I picked out, honestly, I got it because it was smaller, but I honestly fell in love with it in the store. So the first place I went to, the Koolau Farmers, that one, I saw that plant in there, but I'm like, you know what, it was 2 leaves, I didn't want to get it. And then I ended up in Plantoem finding, they had a few of them, and seeing it in person, the leaves, the color on it was absolutely amazing. I'm like, you know what? I really want this plant, and it's a manageable size. So I feel like I could easily just take it out of the soil and wrap it in a paper towel. And that's what I ended up doing is I like soaked the plant in some water the day of our flight and loosened all the dirt and kind of rinsed the roots. Some of the roots came off. Honestly, it didn't really have much of a root system left, but I wrapped it in a damp paper towel and put it in a Ziploc bag, and that's how I carried it on the plane. So we went through the agriculture department, and they didn't say anything, so it was like a really smooth process. But it's the blue oil fern, and it's just so cool in person. I don't know if the lighting here isn't doing this plant any justice at all, but I'll insert a photo that I got like right after I got home. And the blue, it really shines through in some of the lighting. I think it's because I have the overhead light on here. It's like taking away from the blue. And honestly, it looks amazing after everything that it went through, because I like really damaged the root system getting the soil off because it has really fine roots. But I put it in a thing of stratum and perlite, and you can see all that condensation there. I actually think I do see some roots growing in. You can see right there. And I really don't have any yellowing at all. I think maybe a couple of these smaller leaves are yellowing a tiny bit, but it's done phenomenal. And I did read that these do like more humidity, so if I do get crisping, like this leaf is actually a little crispy here on the end, it may need more humidity, because I did read it likes more humidity, and I didn't realize that. And it's actually pet friendly. I didn't know this was pet friendly. So I'm like, this would be a good candidate to put in my bathroom. So I might move it in there. But right now I just have it in the window. It's kind of out in the open. I did clean the leaves. Some of the leaves still have like a bit of residue, that buildup that they get, the white stuff. But I did clean the leaves with a little bit of vinegar, so I feel like it helped. But I don't see any pests at all. It looks really happy for traveling back. And it's so cool. I love the color of it. This honestly was not a plant I was expecting to get at all and fall in love with, but once I saw it in person, I'm like, I have to get this. It's so cool. But look at that blue sheen. Do you see that? How cool is that? So my plan is, once it roots up and gets like a healthy root system back, I guess I'll pot it back up. I was reading on the care, and I think it does like to stay somewhat moist. So I don't know, I might just put it in a soil mix, but it does seem really happy in the stratum and perlite. So that was a good thing to put it in right away. But yeah, it's so cute. I love it. Look at that. Look at that color. I have this cute little Hello Kitty bag. It's so stinking cute, like a little shopping bag. I'm not going to show everything. I mean, I have like little knickknacks and stuff, like little souvenirs and stuff, and got a couple t-shirts and some various odds and ends, but I wanted to show you a couple of the artwork things. Okay, the first artwork I fell in love with, we went to an art gallery. It was, I forget the name of the shops, like that little section, but it was like a ton of local places and food places, but we were just walking around one evening, and just to get out of the like Waikiki area, we came across an art gallery, and we went inside just to look around. And the artwork, everything was done by like local artists and stuff, and it was so pretty inside. And I fell in love with this artist work. Let me show you the artwork that I got, because it's so pretty. It's so cute. So 2 cats, and then it has this beautiful like sunset. You can see there's a wire that they used to like create the design. I'm trying to think, I don't know the artist's name. I don't know if it says. I got like the paperwork with it, but it's so pretty and cute. I'm gonna hang it up somewhere. There was another couple of designs I was looking at. One was a rooster. I really wanted the rooster. Another one, it was a sea turtle, which I was kind of looking at as well, but I couldn't say no to the cats because they're just so cute. So I loved this. I just had to get it and support a local artist. Oh, another place that we went to, this was in the main Waikiki area. It wasn't like a mall, but it was in a place where there were just all kinds of shops, but it's called, that's the name of it, Kokonine. And everything there was done by local artists. It's like wrapped up so nicely. So I ended up getting two different things. One is like a little surfboard, and it has divots, and they have all kinds of designs that you can create like your own picture, like custom picture frame type thing. So one of the things we got was like a little 3x3 frame, and it fits, like, you can fit it anywhere in the surfboard thing, in the little slots in the groove. But this is really popular there. So that's like the middle of it. And then you can buy all kinds of other stuff to like go around. So I got some other cute little things. One of the pieces is a monstera, so that fits right in there. And then we have like palm tree and stuff, so you can create like your own cute little frame design. And then another item that I got there was, okay, this one has the artist. So she does acrylic paintings on canvas, inspired by life in the islands and nature's beauty. So this I fell in love with because I just think it's beautiful. That's the artwork. So it has monstera, so it's a frame. I think you can hang it, and it comes with a piece you can actually like stand it up. I just like the colors, and I fell in love with the monstera, of course. Isn't that so pretty? And then that's the artist there. But they had this size and they had a larger one. I went with the smaller one. But I think that would be so cute to hang maybe in my shop room. I just loved it. Yeah, so I just wanted to share with you a couple of pieces that I got locally there. So yeah, I'm excited to add those in our home, and you know, every time I look at them, I'll think about our trip and everything. I loved our trip and everything that we did, and I would love to have a couple more days, but that is okay. It was sad to be away from the cats that long. Luna especially, she's just like was glued to me for the next few days that I was home. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad I could share some of this trip with you and some of the places that we went, and the plants especially. I think that was just the highlight of the trip, seeing plants in nature and just visiting some local areas and the shopping and walking around. It was just so nice, and I can't, honestly, I would go back in a heartbeat. Thank you so much for watching and for being here, and mahalo.